Okay.
Yep, you can get started, Lester.
Awesome. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Crystal Payroll and Reckon One webinar for Reckon agents. My name is Lester, and I'm a partner account manager here in Crystal Payroll. So I'll be your webinar host for today, and I just want to say it's great to have you with us, and a huge thank you to Reckon for working with us to host this webinar. Cool. So I'd also like to mention that throughout this webinar, I'll be showing examples of how certain functions work by providing appropriate screenshots where necessary. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So right here on my screen, you'd see the Crystal Payroll's homepage, and I'll just log in there quickly through a demo account. So usually you'll click on login and you can go employer. Yep, so fill up the details there. Great. So this is the Crystal Payroll's home screen. And in this webinar, we'll show you how easy it is to manage your payroll by introducing you to various industry-specific features within the system and walking you through how simple it is to complete a pay run. We'll also show you our payroll functions, such as the payday filing dashboard, our automatic holiday pay calculator, automatic termination pay functions, and many more. Also, in this, we'll also have a look at the Crystal Manager add-on module. It's a great function that allows employees to be allocated an employee login, which they can then use to enter their own worked hours and allow their managers to approve them, as well as their leave requests that they send through. So in this little webinar as well, we'll show you how easy it is to post your journals to Reckon One from Crystal through the integration between Crystal and Reckon One. So lastly, we'll have a look at the different service options available within Crystal and how to join Crystal Payroll as a business partner if you're not already with us. Cool. So from the main page, we'd have the 4 different menu tabs on the left. So once a new account's created, we'll start with the company settings. So it is important to set the company settings correctly before you start processing your first pay. So usually I'd go in company settings and then payroll settings. So in here, you'd notice there's going to be 4 different tabs: your general settings, leave settings, overtime pay settings, as well as your advanced settings. So I'll just quickly go through the important parts of these settings and what you'd have to set up. So if you've got multiple pay frequencies in here, that's where you'd set up your multiple pay frequencies. Otherwise, it's usually set by default to weekly pay frequency. So above this, you just enter your employee's IRD number, contact details. They're pretty self-explanatory. And just below general settings, you've got the payslip format. So this is where you'd be able to select different types of payslips. So we've got really basic payslips to payslips with more information in them. So I'll just quickly tab across to a little folder that I have here, just to show you the different payslip formats that we have. So this is what a basic payslip format would look like. That's an employee payslip, and then for basic payslip format, it just shows you the main expenses, the gross, the PAYE, the IRD deductions, as well as take-home pay. So if you were to select a more detailed payslip in the system, you'd see something like this, where it will break down hours worked by the employee, as well as the different types of deductions that would apply. And just below there, you've got your payment information as well. So with the payslip formats, you can allow certain details to show in the payslip and certain information, if you choose not to have it reflect, you can customize that as well. Sorry. So I'll just minimize this and then we'll just get back into it. So that will be the payslip format section over here. So just below payslip format, you've got your payday filing settings. So for the payday filing settings, you'd have it activated in the system. And once you've done that, you've checked on this and you've saved it, then it will ask you to authenticate with the IRD. So this is where you click on that set authentication button, and then it will redirect you to the IRD. You'd enter your credentials, your login details, and then it will take you back to Crystal, and that's therefore a successful sort of authentication between Crystal and the IRD. So for our payday filing, it's done automatically by the system, and the system sends that information through automatically within 2 days of the set payment date. So all that's done in the background, but I'll show you in a brief second where our payday filing dashboard is and what interesting things are there. So we'll move on to the leave settings over here. So in Crystal Payroll, you'll notice sort of a top-down approach. You start from the top and then you just go down the list. So for leave settings, you've got the ability to customize certain types of, I guess, leave information or certain types of leave criteria if that applies to an organization or a company. So all these settings here are set by default. It allows the system to comply with the Holidays Act and allows permanent employees, for example, to accrue up to 4 weeks of annual leave, and for all employees to be allocated their sick leave entitlement 5 days after 6 months. So for some companies, I'd say that this does not apply to. It can be customized if needed be over here. Okay, so the region for anniversary is also set in this page. So if you're in a different region, for example, with Auckland, we've got the Auckland anniversary day, and for Canterbury, they've got a different date. So you set that accordingly here. Okay, so I'll just move down below. If this applies, we've got other leave entitlements. So if long service leave applies to a specific organization, you can activate it here. Otherwise, you can uncheck it and deactivate it if it's not necessary. So I'll click on that save button and then I'll just move down to overtime pay settings. So pretty self-explanatory. Overtime pay settings allows you to set overtime rates to every employee in a company. So this can be applied to every employee in a company or an individual employee. So you can set that at an individual level as well if that was necessary. So the system allows you to set the right rate for it, which is usually a time and a half, so 1.5 here. But otherwise, if there were different rates to be applied to different thresholds, you would set them up below here. So the system can be as simple as you want it to be, or it can be extended to suit more complicated scenarios. It also has the option to allow employees to accrue overtime in lieu leave. If this applies, you'd activate the function here. Okay. So in the advanced settings section, so this over here would just be more advanced options that will be available to different functions that we have in the system. For example, if it is required to allow departments or cost centers to be allocated to hours that the employee has worked and to be entered in the timesheets, then you'd activate it here. Otherwise, all of these settings are set by default to mirror what is a normal pay run. Down below as well, you'd find your different advanced settings for allowances and deductions. You can set various thresholds to that if necessary. And if you wanted to activate the advanced options, you can do that here. So this also applies for the KiwiSaver and superannuation settings. So these settings over here are just more advanced options that you could activate if required. Okay, so I'll just save this and then would proceed back to the home page. Cool. So in the company settings tab, you will also find cost centers. So if this applies to an organization where they need to track hours worked by an individual employee or a number of employees in a specific department, then you'd set them up here appropriately in the cost centers page. So this is where you'd set branches up, departments, jobs, or job types if required. So this is all just for tracking purposes. The cost centers allows you to, once you've got it all set up and you've got the hours worked by an employee allocated to a specific branch or department or a job, this allows you to generate a costing analysis report within the system, and it will flow through to those reports to be available for those hours to be tracked. So speaking of reports, also we'll have a look at our comprehensive reporting suite in a little bit. Now, since we're still in that company settings tab, below cost centers, we have import/export. So the import and export page will show you or will allow you to set the accounting system. So that's over here in the general ledger export settings. So we've already got Reckon 1 selected. So to set Reckon 1 up in the system as one of your accounting systems, you would select it from the drop-down list. And then once that's done, you click on the Save button. It's a very quick process where the system will then redirect you to the Reckon 1's website to authenticate. And once you've filled in your credentials, that completes the setup. So when it redirects you back to Crystal, it'll retrieve all your books within Reckon 1. So at the moment, if I select this, it's only picked up one in there for that demo account, but it will be able to retrieve all your books and allow you to select the appropriate book, and also allocate the expense account to the different types of payments or deductions appropriately. And you click on Save. So once you've done that, it pretty much completes the setup, and now all you have to do is just push that information across to Reckon from Crystal Payroll. And that's also a fairly quick process, which I'll show you in a little bit. So apart from the general ledger export settings, we've also got the ability for Crystal to integrate with different time clocking systems. If you use a time clocking system, they should be down in this section over here. We do integrate with multiple different time clocking systems, so you just have to select it, and pretty much it allows you to import the timesheet file, the CSV file, and allows the system to read that and apply it to the timesheets. It's a very straightforward process. So this electronic schedule method here is necessary if you've got to export a payment schedule file from the system to import into the bank to pay the employees as a paid service. So if you do need that, then you just have to fill up the information with the company's bank information, bank account number, and other required information. Great. So I'll head back to the home page, and in the company settings tab as well, there is the company file section. So the company file section is pretty straightforward. You just enter your company's information, so required information like the addresses, the contact person, phone numbers, email addresses for us to send emails to. And down below here, you'd notice the audit trails button as well. So the audit trails button is a section where it allows the system to record any important details or important actions that was made pertaining to a particular company. And if I click on it, you'd notice that it just records all the actions that have been made by a user in the system. So this is a paid service that is required to be activated within Crystal. so it records every action that was made in the account. Okay, so in the company settings tab, finally we've got the company users page. So the company users page is where you'd be able to set up new administrators. So you can set up new administrators. If you look over here where it says manager and accountant, for accountants, they can have, so for accountants, they can have a specific access to, So for accountants, they can have a specific login to be able to access the account, and this is where you set that up. So for managers over here, this is where we have our Crystal Manager add-on function, which we've talked about at the start. So once that's been activated, that's an add-on service. Once it's been activated, you will be able to set up managers to approve employees' hours that they've punched in through their own employee logins. So to set up a new administrator in the system or set up more users, you just click on the add button and you just be able to create username, user code, and password for them. You can also allow the account to be set as a read-only, so no changes can be made, but the administrator, or I guess the new user, will be able to view certain reports, but are not able to make changes. Great. So now we'll move on from the company settings into the employee settings. So the employee settings and employee details page will allow you to set up your employees in the system. So to set up a new employee, it's a top-down approach again. So it's very simple. You click on set up a new employee and you just fill up the form pretty much. You just fill up the important details. If it was a required detail that we need in the system, you will see these asterisks in here that will prompt you to enter that information accordingly. So once you've gone through the general details section, which is just general details pertaining to that particular employee, you'd then be able to move on to the more important information like the IRD number and tax code, payment method. If the employee has any default working hours or fluctuating work pattern, that's where you set that up as well. But all in all, it's a very straightforward and simple process, top-down approach, and you'd be able to set up your employees. So I've got 4 employees here that I've already set up a while back. I've got a casual employee with no fixed working hours, a contractor, a manager with fixed working hours, which you can see here in the default hours section, and a sales assistant, Mary, here that does not have fixed working hours, so we'll set that to 0. With the appropriate settings applied to default hours, for example, this will allow the system to calculate the accrual for these types of employees. Employees that are on fixed working hours and employees that are on fluctuating work patterns will accrue leave differently. And so it is quite important to set that up appropriately in the system. Okay, so I'll just head back to the home page. While we're in the employee settings page, or the employee settings tab, we've also got the termination page. So I'll just quickly click on that. So in Crystal, we have a page for you to terminate employees if required. This page is pretty simple. It has all your employees in there, and you just have to specify what the last working date is, if there was an extra payment end date, for example, and the leave reason for recording purposes. So once that's all been saved here, the system will generate a final pay for the employee. So it will pick up any available leave that the employee has that hasn't been taken, and any accrued leave since the last anniversary. So all that's calculated to a dollar amount, and it will be able to show you what to account for a particular employee. So it's very simple, and I'll just quickly tab through to what it sort of looks like when you've entered that information. So here I've got a screenshot of the automatic final pay calculations by the system. So once you've terminated the employee, it'll show you any annual leave that is owing to the employee. It will be in here. So for this employee, there isn't any, and any alternative leave owing. So it pretty much breaks all that down and shows you those individual figures. And if you needed to know what or where those hours were accrued from, you could click on these little I buttons beside and it will show you the pay period and pay run where the employee has gotten those hours. So it'll also show you the accrued leave that's being accounted for, and you can always drill down into where the system is taking that figure from. So it's a very crystal clear approach, and it allows you to see every bit of detail if required. And so the final pay amount will be down the bottom. So after this has been generated, all you have to do is approve this, and then the pay run can be completed for the employee's final pay. Okay, so I'll close out of here and we'll just head back. Now down in the employee settings tab as well, we've got notes section. Pretty straightforward. You can enter a note in the system if you need to, and if you need to have the note applied to a payslip, you can do that as well. Or you can set a company note to have it apply through to an entire organization, have it appear in all their payslips for a particular pay run or a selected number of pay runs. Okay. So as we were talking about before, we have a very comprehensive reporting suite. So it's in here in our report center. We have over 35 different reports, from pay run reports, which will show you pay slips, your trial balance reports, hours analysis reports, allowance and deduction reports, and also your leave reports, which is in the company analysis section. This will show you all your different types of leave reports, like your leave taken reports, a leave entitlement analysis report, or just a short summarized version. So heaps of different reports in here that will be very helpful if you're looking for a certain type of information. As we've mentioned from before, we've got our automatic pay filing dashboard in the system. So this is where you'd find it. Anything related to the IRD, or if you're looking for your PAYE amounts to account for, it will be all in this section here under IRD filing. So this is the dashboard here, pay filing dashboard. So the great thing about the pay filing dashboard and in Crystal is definitely that it's crystal clear. So not only will the system be able to submit the information automatically, you'd also be able to view what you've sent through for each pay run that had been completed. So again, I'll tap back to a little screenshot that we have here to show you what it looks like when you click on that view button, because that was a demo account, so we don't have that function, we don't have live data in there. So if you have a look here, for each pay run that's been completed in the system, the data or pay data will be sent through automatically by our servers. So it's done all in the background and it's sent through within 2 working days of your payment date. Now, whenever that information has been sent through, it will create a timestamp which will show you the filing date as well as the filing time it's been sent through. And if you wanted to look at that information, in Crystal we have a two-way communication with the IRD, so you'll be able to view that and just look at the data that's sitting in the IRD at the moment. So when you click on view, you'd be able to have a look at all the employees that's been paid in their pay run and all their information, their pay information as well as their tax information. And it's all broken down to the different types of deductions as well, and ESCT. So once you've clicked on an employee's name, it'll also show you or will draw down to more intricate details like the employee's IRD number, tax code, as well as start and finish date if that was in there as well. So any discrepancies that is in the IRD or within Crystal will show on this discrepancy list. So what this is say for example, there was a data that was entered within the IRD, or someone has logged into that and made some changes to some information. So when that happens, the system is going to be able to pick up the discrepancies between what's in Crystal doesn't match up to what's in the IRD. So it creates this discrepancy record, and it will show you what it is, so you can have it rectified, or you can ring the IRD to find out what it was. So it's a great tool, creating this full visibility between Crystal and the IRD, and allows you to see every bit of information in there, every bit of pay information if you require. So I'll just close out of here, and we'll just head back to Crystal. As we're still in the Report Center section, now we have the Accounting Analysis tab. So in the Accounting Analysis tab, this is where you'd be able to generate costing reports. We have the Costing Analysis report here. So this is if you've got cost centers set up in the system, you want it to generate the report, it's here. If you want it to push data to Reckon, it will be in this General Ledger Analysis page. So once you've clicked on General Ledger Analysis, you'd be able to select your pay period. So in here, I will select pay period 8 because that's already completed. And in the tab here as well, I've logged in to Reckon 1 a couple minutes before. So I'll just quickly hit refresh just to see if it has logged me out. Nope, so that's great. So to send information through to Reckon, all you have to do is click on this little button here that says Send to Reckon. So once you've clicked on it, so this is when you've already authenticated, you've already set that up in the system, which I've showed from before. So once it has been sent through, and I've refreshed this in Reckon, you'd now be able to see that you have one transaction to reconcile. So you can click on it within Reckon 1. It might take a second. And basically, it will allow you to reconcile that pay run within Reckon. So it will allow you to start your reconciliation process from here. So you could click on Start Reconciliation if you need to, or if you need to just look at the journals that we've just pushed through. In here, under Day-to-Day, we've got journals as well. And you'd be able to see the data that I've just pushed through. If you click on it, you can drill down into it and look at the pay information. So this is a great integration between Crystal and Reckon that we're very excited about, and it's worked very well so far. So in this General Ledger Analysis page, that's when you'd be able to push or send the information through to Reckon 1 if required. So down in this Accounting Analysis section as well, you'd find other leave reports for the entire organization, leave liability reports, and payroll variance reports. They will all just be in here. Okay, so as we've mentioned from before, we'd like to show you how simple it is to process a pay in Crystal. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. So to process a pay, it's in this section over here for process a pay, and there are 2 pages that will be related to it, and those 2 pages will flow together. So if we go into the time and income page, this is where you'd be able to find all your employees that you've created in the system. It'll be on the top left. And as you can see, when I've clicked on every individual employee, the page refreshes and it will show you that information for that particular employee. So to enter hours worked, I'll use two examples. An employee that has default working hours, that's Sarah here as a manager, and an employee that does not have fixed working hours, or in this case could be a fluctuating work pattern. So this will apply to Mary here. So Mary does not have any hours because we didn't set any default hours for her in the employees settings page. So that's why in here it's all empty. Whereas for Sarah, because we've set default hours for her, system pulls that information through automatically. So it'll all be in here. So for hours worked, it's all going to be applied to normal working hours. If you like to change the hours worked, for example, on the 26th of November on a Tuesday, if Sarah didn't work 8 hours, if she worked more than 8 hours, it's very straightforward. Just click on the date there, and then you can just delete, enter 9 hours, for example, and save it. And it will reflect accordingly. So if there was any leave that was taken, for example, for Sarah, so say for example on a Wednesday, she took annual leave. So you just click on the date here and it'll fill the information just up on this gray area here, and you'd be able to change the action, say from normal working to annual leave, and the system will be able to show you what the amount of leave is available for the employee, if there was any accrued leave or available leave, and then you can set the appropriate hours accordingly. So you click on the save button and this pretty much will update the entry there. So if there was different allowances that will be allocated to an employee, you'll find these buttons over here down on the bottom under more income and deductions. It will allow you to allocate allowances to the employees. You click on add and you've got a list of different allowances here, or if you wanted to set up more allowances, you'd be able to find them down here. So these allowances are already pre-recorded in the system, but are not being used yet. The ones that are currently used are in here. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy to move it across. You just select it. Say the employee might be going at ACC. So if you wanted to use it, you click on it, click on the arrow pointing to the right, or push it across, and it will allow you to use that ACC allowance leave when you click on add. So it'll be updated on the top of the list. Now this also applies for any deductions, any cash ups that would have been done, any bonuses that would have been given will be in this extra pay section. So a heap of different functions that you can allocate payments to an employee, and it's all tracked, and the rates will be applied appropriately as well, especially if it relates to leave calculations. It needs to be accurate in the system, and Crystal Payroll does all that. So we've got the sales assistant here, Mary. At the moment, Mary doesn't have any fixed working hours, so it's all empty here. But if you wanted to set hours worked to a specific day, you just click on the calendar over here. And for this pay run, I can see it's from the 26th onwards to the 2nd of December. So we'll select the 2nd of December, and then you just enter hours worked as 8. So it's very straightforward, and it just fills the timesheet accordingly. So if you're happy with the hours, let's go back to Sarah. So if you're happy with Sarah's hours, it looks all good, you would click on approve here. So this will lock all the information in place, and then you'd carry on to the next employee, say Mary. So the hours look good as well. We'll click approve. So once you've approved them, you click on the take home pay section. So like I mentioned before, this has a flow on effect. You'd go on the time and income page first, approve that information, and then once you've approved it, you move on to the take home pay page. So the take home pay page will show you the gross information of the employee, tax code, and it will break that down into all the different types of deductions, and it will give you the net amount It will show you what the deductions are, the KiwiSaver deductions, student loan if that applies to an employee, and the take-home pay amount. So you can scroll through to Mary as well, just to have a look at that information. And simply, if you're happy with all that, you'll just click on Approve All. So of course you could go through and approve them individually up here, but if you've already confirmed all that information is correct, you can just click on Approve All, and this payroll system will pretty much approve all of it at once. So this is also the place where you'd be able to print out pay slips for employees. So it's a little shortcut. All these pay slips are available in the report center as well. But if you wanted to generate them right here, you'd be able to select that and then print it. And this will generate the appropriate payslip for the employee. Okay. So in here as well, you'll notice the email and export button. So this over here allows you to send payslips to individual employees. If you've got the employee's email that's already set up in the employee's settings page, then you can click on this and click on send, little button send, and then it will be able to send all that to all the employees. So you click on email, and then you can specify the employee to send it to. You can also do this in the bulk amount as well. So if you've got 10 employees, it's all been set up, you can send that through automatically to all 10 of them. So just a click of a button. Now, I'll just head back to the home page. So apart from the time and income and the take-home pay page, in the process of pay section, we'll also have the leave summary page. It's a quick place for you to look at all your employees' leave information. So it's a quick one-stop for you to, if you select an employee, you'd be able to see their available hours, available annual leave, their sick leave balance, any other different types of leave will be in here as well. And of course, if you wanted to drill down to how that figure is being generated or calculated, you can click on it. For example, if you wanted to look at how the accrual is calculated, you can click on it, and the system will generate a rolling set of data that will show you how that figure was calculated. So also in the process of pay section, we have the leave pay rate page. So the leave pay rate page is important because it'll show you all the leave rates for every individual employee. And this needs to be correct to comply with the Holidays Act. So with permanent employees, they need to be paid the highest rate being between the ordinary weekly pay rate as well as the average weekly earnings rate. So if an employee has default working hours and they work over their set default hours for, say, for the first 4 weeks, then that ordinary rate would increase. And when the employee takes annual leave, it needs to be paid at the greater rate. So the system applies that automatically. So any annual leave that's being paid to an employee that suits this scenario. So this also applies for the right rates to be calculated for an employee that's on a fluctuating work pattern, and a different setup is necessary for that to be calculated in the system. So you'd be able to see that with each employee, it will show you the other leave hourly rate as well as the annual leave hourly rate. So the two different rates that would apply for the other leave hourly rate. This would apply to any alternative leave that was taken, sick leave, bereavement leave, domestic violence leave, for example. And the annual leave hourly rate only applies to when annual leave is taken. So as mentioned from before, these little I buttons allow you to drill down to how the figure is calculated, how the amount is calculated, and you'll be able to scroll through and find out how. So with Crystal Payroll being very compliant to the Holidays Act, tax calculations, and also in here, if we click on my account, it will be in the help section. So we've also got the PAYE calculator. If I just clicked on, this will allow you to calculate tax, for example, on a specific gross amount. So if you haven't entered that in the pay run, you wanted to find out what the tax is, our PAYE calculator mirrors the IRD tax calculator. So everything here would mirror exactly what you'd get when you enter that information in the IRD's calculator. So all these really helpful functions will be available in the system. And of course, we've got a very comprehensive help index as well. If you needed to find out what steps to take to set up a particular item in the system, you'd definitely be able to find it within the help section. Okay, so last but not least, I've mentioned before that we have got the Crystal Manager add-on function, and I just thought I'll share a screenshot with you on what that looks like on the mobile phone. So the Crystal Manager function again allows employees to be allocated an employee login, which they can then log in and enter their own hours. And once those hours have been entered, they can submit it to their managers, who will then be able to approve those hours and the leave requests that they've sent through. And then that will populate the timesheets in the system. So it has a flow-on effect, definitely. And with these individual employee logins given to the employees, they will be able to use it and look at their own individual payslips whenever they need to. They have access to the report center for their own individual reports as well. So all that's available with our Crystal Manager add-on module. Okay. Great. So I'll just have a quick look here. We've also got our pay period list page. So our pay period list page will show you all the pay periods that you've processed in the system. At the moment for this demo, we've only got 9, but it will be able to show you the start date, end date, as well as the payment date of each pay period. And you can scroll through to work on a prior pay period if you need to, just by checking on it as your current period. So this is also the place where you can create one-off pays. So if it was a once-off pay that was to be made to an employee, you can create it very easily in the system by clicking on the pay period numbers. Okay, so in the help section as well, we have various quick links to help you get started, as well as I've mentioned before, comprehensive help index available here. And with Crystal Payroll, you get unlimited support, so you can feel free to ring us anytime. We're based right here in the North Shore of Auckland, and yeah, we'll be available to answer any questions that you might have at any point in time. So we're almost at the end of our webinar. So I think that this will be a great time to mention various service options that we offer here at Crystal Payroll. So I've already opened the pricing page of Crystal. And in our pricing page at the bottom, you'll find the different service options. So these service options would apply to a client, for example, if they wanted to account for their PAYE on their own, for example, then they'll go on the self-service. If they wanted Crystal to account for the PAYE and send that information on their behalf, they could get on PAYE service. Basic Bureau would mean that we'll basically be paying the employees for them, and a direct debit needs to be set up between client and us. And also, if it applies for a fully outsourced solution, then this will be when a full bureau service would apply. Also, if you like to join us as our business partner, under the More section in here, we've got our Become a Partner section. This page will show you the benefits of coming on board with us as our business partner, and we've got different types of partner options as well, and different rewards would apply to the different types of partners that you would come on board as. Awesome. So this marks the end of our Reckon One and Crystal Payroll webinar here today. The floor is now open to any questions. So I'll just expand this tab. And if you had any questions, feel free to type them into the chat box that you'd find on your screen. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Great. Well, so we'll give it another minute to see if there are any questions come through.
Hi, Lester. We've got one question from Tony,
Yep.
which basically asks, is there much customization available in the payslips?
Yes, definitely. So Tony, if I head into the payroll settings page, that's in company settings, payroll settings. I've briefly touched on it from before, but in the payslip format section, apart from being able to allow the system to generate a basic payslip or a more detailed payslip, you have the option to show different types of leave or exclude different types of leave. So for example, if you don't want to include accrued leave, you can uncheck it. And also we've got the more payslip options available. So in this section, you'd be able to customize your payslips and even enter a special message in there if you need to. So it's very customizable. You can change your own signature as well if you want to, and you can allow certain information to reflect on the payslip and certain information to just not be there. So the ability to customize a payslip is available within the system, definitely, and it's all within this little section over here for payslip format.
Awesome, thank you.
Awesome.
I think that's all the questions for now.
Yep.
If they have any questions after watching the webinar, how would they contact you, Lester?
Yep. That's a good question, Andrea. So if there were any questions, feel free to just send them through to Lester. So I'll just type it in here. So it's just Lester at Crystal. Yep. So you can just send it through to Lester at crystalpayroll.co.nz. So this over here, I've just written this down as well. So this is just our support team if there were any support related questions, but I'm happy to answer both of them. Just to give you 2 emails here you can reach out to.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, so there's no more questions at this stage, and thank you very much for presenting today's webinar, Lester.
Yep, no worries. Thanks to everyone for your time today. And yeah, again, I'd like to acknowledge Reckon for working with us to host this webinar. And I hope that you guys have an amazing rest of the day.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
And